Bears fans, in the last couple days, we learned that Jim Harbaugh came to the Bears looking for a job and was summarily rejected by the McCaskies and Kevin Warren, who was formerly the commissioner of the Big Ten. Very weird circumstance. A hometown product kid, the prodigal son returns would have been one of the greatest angles. And by the way, I should point out that the Chargers are like 9-3 right now after being mid last year, while at the same time the Bears are worse than the previous year, sitting at 4-8 right now as we get out of the Matt Eberflus era. Thomas Brown has taken over. It looks like the Bears are leaning into Thomas Brown, but I don't know what the end result is on that. Now, I like to think positive, and I like to think that maybe they'll do a really good job. Maybe Eric Washington's going to call a great game. Maybe he's going to enforce a little bit more blitzing. Maybe he's going to turn the Bears defense into something more aggressive. The offense, we've already seen some marked improvements. And in fact, despite that a lot of people have been grading Caleb Williams on a curve, that much is evident at this point. I think the early ratings gave him like a C-, where we gave Jaden Daniels an A. And by the way, if you look at the statistics, come on. Also, Bo Nix, if you look at the statistics, come on. But winning is what matters in the NFL. And it means not for long if you don't win, right? So that's what we got to do. We got to win some games. Now, in the meantime, as this coaching search continues on, there's one name that comes up as the prohibitive favorite for everything. Now, you might have your own personal preference here, but this guy right here is the guy that the majority of people and the betting odds like the most. And that man, by the way, hit that like button on the way in and let me know who is your pick for the number one coach. Leave a comment down below. Tell me who you think it is, and let's have a conversation about it. But the man, Ben Johnson, and here's the thing. Ben Johnson has openly said, look, I am willing to talk about head coaching jobs. I'm not out on it. So the question, however, has become the message that he sent out just recently is very interesting. Adam Schefter and Albert Breer have both said that he has interest in the Chicago Bears head coaching job. Now, most would assume it's because he wants a chance to work with Caleb Williams. It's safe to assume the organization hopes to meet with Johnson at some point next month. There could be a problem, though. Breer gave an update on the situation ahead of Thursday night's matchup with Green Bay. He stated that Johnson won't go chasing any job. He has certain conditions he hopes are met. One of the biggest is alignment between himself and the general manager. If that's true, the Bears might have a problem. Now, what is the problem? Ben Johnson might not want to work with Ryan Poles. Now, why would he not want to work with Ryan Poles? And look, there's some fair estimates here about problems with Ryan Poles. Number one, we saw the Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles interview the other day, and Ryan Poles looked incredibly uncomfortable. We're starting to hear a lot of things about what Ryan Poles has said. And by the way, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus was considered to be an arranged marriage because the McCaskies only gave him a list of a couple different coaches that they wanted. Matt Eberflus was the best of the ones that they wanted. So this is a situation in which Ryan Poles, as general manager, may have not had and may not have full control over his own role, and that is very complicating. And if that is the case, then what head coach wants to be saddled with somebody who's ineffectual and can't do his job effectively? That is a problem. So if that is the case, then Ben Johnson's not coming here. He wants to be able to build what he wants to be able to build, and he can't do that if he doesn't have the ear of the general manager. So this article digs in and says this isn't necessarily because he doesn't respect the Bears GM. It's more about not being sure of Poles' job security. Kevin Warren announced that the organization plans to keep him on and that he will lead the search for a new head coach. Now, what he also said was it's Ryan Poles' final decision who the coach is, because they know that the rumors got out that it was the McCaskies that were forcing Matt Eberflus down Bears fans' throats. They realize, I think maybe they realize they don't know what they're talking about and that they need to just step back and allow for the experts to do stuff. So According to the update, Ben Johnson does not want any part of a lame duck general manager. This means that if the Bears are serious about hiring him, they need to consider one of two options. Either they have to fire Poles and hire a GM Johnson would approve, or they must find a way to convince him that Poles is in zero danger of losing his job. Now, look, I can make an argument. This is where we are with Ryan Poles. I can make an argument with you right now that would sound convincing about why Ryan Poles is crafting one of the best rosters in all of football, and that we're seeing it develop under our eyes, and it happened under a bad coach that he was saddled with when it was forced upon him by the McCaskey family and, to an extent, Kevin Warren, and also because when he saw an opportunity to improve this team in Jim Harbaugh, Kevin Warren and the McCaskies told him, nuh-uh, we like Matt Eberflus because 7-10, close enough. Losing 5 games by 1 score, that's just, we're learning how to win. You can convince yourself that Ryan Poles is great. Now, on the flip side of that, you can also make an argument that Ryan Poles brought in Nate Davis, which is a colossal failure. That he brought in Chase Claypool, which is a colossal failure. That he drafted for Velus Jones Jr., which is a colossal failure. There are a lot of different pieces in place that just did not work very well. Okay, there are some problems, and we're not getting the most bang for our buck, if you will. So you can make an argument, but if you look at both of those arguments and then you throw in the trade for DJ Moore, the move and getting the number 1 draft pick, all of the pieces that you put into place, the lack of move to get Roma Dunze, which, look, the guy has been a good football player, a solid, and once Keenan Allen is gone, then Roma Dunze really steps into his own and becomes, I think, a more integral part of this team. So you can make a really solid argument. And by the way, let's not forget Darnell Wright is now playing like one of the better tackles in the league now that we're not shifting and running around, and now that the offensive line scheme is not looking crazy, which it did for a while. Now that it's not looking crazy, guess what? Suddenly Caleb Williams has a pocket to throw in, and he's starting to look like a good quarterback. So maybe we're just misreading this. And look, when you look at it objectively, I prefer to look at it objectively. I like Ryan Poles. I like what he does. I would hold him to the fire for each and every one of these mistakes. But look, you always make mistakes. There are plenty of players that just don't work out. The problem with the Chicago Bears is not Ryan Poles, in my opinion. The problem is George McCaskey doesn't want to give up his money. He doesn't want to pay free money to settle mistakes. He allowed Chase Claypool to move on very quickly, but we held on to Nate Davis hoping that he was going to change. And the rumors and everything around the league was that Nate Davis was going to be a bust to begin with. The only person that liked him, Mike Vrabel. That was it. We didn't even get trade requests for him. Just consider that. So, there are pieces that didn't really fit in. We failed Darnell Mooney radically. Velus Jones Jr. just wasn't very good, but he was a high draft pick that Ryan Poles went after and then continued to hold for a long period of time. Now, look, if I don't have a problem with Velus Jones as much as I do with Nate Davis, and the reason for that is Velus Jones, $1 million, $2 million. That's a cheap person to pay on a professional football team. He's not expensive as a talent, so that's a good thing. I don't have a problem with that. But there are things that we did have a problem with. Now, the question is for Ben Johnson, I digress. The question for Ben Johnson is Ryan Poles going to be here, and will he have the ear of that general manager? And they need to work that out amongst themselves. But if it is, then you could expect to see a head coach next season that's either that's either Ben Johnson or Thomas Brown. Now, my heart right now is with Thomas Brown because I like the word continuity. But there's also a scenario in which Ben Johnson might be looking at Thomas Brown saying, look, I would like to come in, I would like to give my opinion of what we need to do to Thomas Brown. I'm wondering if Thomas Brown would be willing to be the offensive coordinator for me and work through this. The likelihood of that, in my opinion, very low. However, this is a rare sort of circumstance in which Thomas Brown is clearly not the problem and could be a solution and could provide that continuity, but also Thomas Brown is probably going to be somebody that people are going to be looking at for a head coaching position very, very soon. So I don't know how this plays out, but there is a big, strong possibility that Ben Johnson is our next head coach. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And what do you think the status of, in the comments below, what do you think the status is on Ryan Poles? And don't forget, by the way, make sure you hit that like button. Helps push me up in the algorithm. More people watch this, more people engage. And we have a better time here. And I'm much happier. And you want me to be happy, right? You want me to be happy. You don't want me to be happy? You don't want me to be happy? All right, whatever. Anyway, bear down. We got San Francisco coming up very, very shortly. And look, I think we're going to win that game. They're 5-7. We're 4-8. Close enough for a toss-up. And I think the Bears are trending in the right direction. And the 49ers trending in the wrong direction. We'll see you soon.